Yo, yo, back with another watch list. And for the people in the back with another watch list. What you gonna do, brother? What's up, Chris? How's it going? AMPG put out an offering here about 20-30 minutes ago. 1.3 million shares, priced at 1.6. Around 1250. What else we got here? Quantum Basket came apart once IO and Q I started pulling back. Today was kind of that trend shift day. If you have watched the Sunday scan with Chris the last couple of weeks, he was waiting for some sort of speed up outside of this sort of linear move. If you get like a speed up through it, but it just never came. But it broke down yesterday, and then with the gap down today, kind of confirmed it. So this kind of dragged the rest of the quantum basket with it. So you had QSI. I was planned from yesterday. You piked RGTI. It was my only focus. That sucks when it's your main focus and you don't perform. It happens, but it never feels good. Even if you make money on it, it never feels good. But yeah, QSI was my quantum name. It seemed like a bit of a laggard with how the rest of the ones were going. Shrimpy George, handsome dude. How's it going, George? Disclaimer, I am straight, Mr. George. Gets the best of us. How's it going, family man? So yeah, you had QBTS, QMCO, RGTI was a bit of a laggard, QSI was a bit of a laggard, and these names were kind of running as the rest of them had already topped out on their daily, but IONQ pulled the whole basket down with it. Didn't really have much of a plan on QBTS and QMCO coming into today. Same thing with Qubit. Wasn't really a setup for me, but something like QSI, RGTI. QSI I was a bit more interested in, just more familiar with this price range and wasn't going to be such a focus on most people's radar. So I was looking at it and I liked the steady grind after 7 a.m. pre-market, holding up into 9 a.m. 9 a.m. comes around and tanks, and then 9:30 and tanks. So now it's down at 2:30 off of the $3 highs, and that overextended gap up is not looking so pretty anymore. So the same kind of story and complaints, and I know the way that trading works is if I start shorting these down near support, down near their intraday lows, that those are going to be the ones that come back and squeeze me out. And had I just been patient and stuck to my initial process and waiting for that squeeze out to react to, I'm going to be frustrated taking losses and cutting into those squeeze outs that I like to be reacting to by just chasing weakness. The moment I try and adapt, that's exactly what's going to happen. I've done this so many times where I'm like, okay, breakouts aren't pulling back to their breakout level, so I'm just going to buy strength right through it. And then once I buy strength through it, they pull back and crack down on intraday support, and I'm cutting my loss when that would have been my entry in the first place. But you end up risking missing the trades by not taking the weakness, just shorts into weakness. So same kind of thing with RGTI. We get that open and it flushes straight down. So here I am waiting at $8. We get that overextended gap up, and I'm waiting to see like a pre-market clear out or some sort of consolidation breakdown off the open. But we definitely didn't get that, and it went straight down from 8 down to 650, and that's $1.50 a range. Is I'm not really expecting a whole lot more. So I don't know. Like, we've had these big bounces where they've broken highs, and we've had these big bounces where they push through VWAP and fail. So I was watching it right around here in the 730s for a possible failed fall through momentum, but I ended up not taking it. It is what it is. So if you botched RGTI, then you're not in the boat alone. Chris B, were you able to trade you, Amy, for the first green day, trying to make sense on the pattern entries? So I just saw it sort of bounce. I traded it small. Wasn't really a sizable trade for me, but because this was a first time it gapped up green, there's the opening print. We get a pullback. I want to see it prove that it wants to hold. I buy the break through the morning highs, and off of this stuff candle, I sold the next lower high. Not clean action, but I took about 8 cents and off the possible 20 cents that were there. So I like the only time it would have really given you a reason to sell would have been basically right here. So if you're not proactively selling into the push, there's no reason to sell until 157 breaks down, and selling 154 is only 3 cents different. So I wouldn't consider this one that worked. It's not really an A grade first green day. It was more just, I think, a spot that had some opportunity. But I don't think it's a sizable trade. I wouldn't consider this one that worked at all. I would consider this a failure. Even though, like, looking at it, it looks like, oh, it went 20 cents, nice move, but I would consider it a failure personally. How perfect would Tesla blow off tomorrow at 475's gap up on Friday? Yep, that was gonna be one thing I would touch on. Yeah, if it goes higher tomorrow, and then ideally a gap up parabolic, and look for that same trade as master. If we can get a speed up and then a gap up blow off, that would be something I would look at Tesla, and likely trade my typical baskets in Tesla L and Tesla T. Tesla X, no, what was it? Tesla D? Damn, what is it? TSL. I can't remember what the inverse is, but TSLL and TSLT are typically the vehicles I trade off of Tesla. I just prefer their price range. They trade a lot thicker, a lot less whipsaw, and you get the exact same trade out of it. DXYZ, you guys see that one into close? 75 over $10 a share pull. Just wild. Let's see what else. Yeah, I've pulled up the CDIO briefly, but I traded it just a couple times. I wasn't trading anything super sizable today. Yesterday and today, I see a bunch of stuff moving. You might see some guys on Twitter saying, markets are crazy, and that's for them. I had a decent 2 to 3 weeks, the last few weeks, where I felt the market was insane, and those same guys that are saying today and yesterday are A plus ops were in drawdowns and having red weeks the last few weeks. So like I say, we're getting in where we fit in. So yes, between yesterday and today, I wasn't trading super sizable. There wasn't really A plus ops for me. So small loss and small gain. Looking for some filled follow through that never really came. But glad that the daily kept going higher. Still has yet to go red. So that's likely a trigger. Don't love how the volume is acting, but it's hard for me to ignore a 30 cent to $1.60 move. Not saying it couldn't continue and do something like that. Like, you can see the volume associated with this FFIE going higher, where you get the blowout and outlier action. Not saying it has to, but just keeping in mind that I don't need to force a bias. Cut losses when I have to, but the volume doesn't need to speed up. But I do have this as my priority into tomorrow and Friday for that possible red move. LAES has now had 2 days of run and mostly sideways today. So no real reason for shorts to cover and no real reason for longs to sell. So I will see which way it gaps tomorrow. If we get a gap up and blowout, I think shorts are forced to cover, and I think there's edge there in not having a position and reacting to that short cover. And if we gap down, then I'd be looking for pops versus a buck to get the bag holders selling into those pops for a retracement back down to 70-80 cents. BBAI, kind of similar to UAMI. I wouldn't put this as an A plus trade, but it did go from 2 to 450 and now pulled back steady lows from 450 back down to 270 with fairly steady lows and a nice double bottom today right here into this volume profile level. So ideally gap down and use prior day's lows as a guide, and then look for that mean reversion back up to 350 would likely be the goal. Nothing I would force, but it would be the same kind of thing as UAMI. Look for some sort of opening range highs break off of a weak open, low a day hold, and look to just sell into strength. Ideally, volume comes back in and could be a bit cleaner of a move. And then a couple multi-day runners. Let me just catch up on chat here. One long UAMI 143 to 155. Yeah, it's basically the same trade I took. Got to be more patient, but first green day since switching long setups. Thanks for all the help. Nicely done, stuff and such. Well done. Basically that same trade I took. You had a bit better of an entry. Looks like you almost nailed low a day, so you bought the pullback to green red where I waited for some confirmation. The reason I waited for confirmation that also could help and put things into perspective is on a pullback here where you get that 147 to 143. The only risk level I see on a 143 entry is prior day's lows. So 143 entry, you're risking 30 cents. Where my 148, 149 entry, I'm risking 6 cents down to low a day. So my risk is a lot tighter. It's a lot more of a positive EV trade, where if low a day breaks statistically after that opening pullback and re-break of highs, if this low a day breaks, it's got like an 80%, 78%, I believe, 78% chance of not working. So just, some food for thought. Not saying the way I trade them is right. I'm just trading them statistically, how I've tracked them over the last few years. That playing that opening range break and using a trigger versus lows is a lot more of a positively expected value than buying that weakness and having wider risk, because there's no significant other risk level other than prior day's lows on that morning pullback. I don't mind it for a starter if you're going to rescale through the highs and add to that winner. If you want to put the same dollar risk on the open and risk prior day's lows and then scale and pyramid in, moving risk up, I think that's perfectly fine, but I think that scale or full on entry through the highs is the positive EV spot, in my opinion. Q looking for a gap up near 500 for Tesla. That would be the A plus. I saw Lance and Lucas. They were apparently short DXYZ before the breakout over 50s. Nice stop out for them. Yep, I was playing that breakout through the 50s because I had the same short bias looking for the fade back to lows, and I sold it too early because I still had that bias in the back of my head. But at least I wasn't short, and at least I flipped long. CDIO looks nice. Gonna be watching that closer now. Yes, sir. How do you like Cure for a liquidity trap trade? As Arnos. Bit higher price. I'm gonna have to see the float on this because typically this price range is a bit higher market cap, which likely means that liquidity is not an issue. Shares outstanding, the float's about 42 million. It gapped up on striking a deal with the FDA for a Huntington's drug. Yeah, I do. I don't really love it. Just given the price range, the 40 million shares outstanding, and given that most of the range on this day was in a gap up, it was up 100% and then only moved like $3 a share. So I don't love that. I do have one liquidity trap on Watch in CMRX, which I think is a bit more ideal in my opinion, where you have the same kind of thing in, let's see what the float is on this one, CMRX, 80 million, also a higher float, a bit better of a price range in my opinion. I don't typically trade liquidity traps on those higher price names. CMRX looks a bit better to me, where you have a morning spike that moves this thing like a $1.40. A $1.40 on a $2 name is a lot bigger range than Cure. You've got this day one VWAP here in the 270 to 80 range, and if you can get a 310 trigger, I think 340 is fairly close by. So I'd be looking for that 310 break for a possible T+1 trade. But I think this one just looks a lot better than this, in my opinion. Like you can see the open here right around 14, went to 16, pulled back sub 13, went to 17, where CMRX went from 2 to 340 and then consolidated in its upper range. So I think shorts are still in there, where Cure gave them more opportunity to kind of get in and get out. Does LDTC count as a T+1? LDTC, kinda. Not really one I would play, but like hindsight, of course. There's no way that I would have traded it, let alone had this on watch, but it went straight up from right at market open, so there's no way I would have traded it anyways. But I typically look for day one, where most of the longs and shorts in. You've got this 140 volume profile that lines up with the day one VWAP. So that 140 break and hold would have been something I would look for, but this trade, this stock, I didn't have on watch and not something I would have traded anyways. But hindsight, sure. How much did Jack make today? I don't know who John D is, and I'm not sure if Jack wants me sharing his P&L all over the internet. But if you can tell me who you are, John D, I don't mind sharing, but I don't know who you are. Because Jack, I think, openly shares P&L fairly often. Did he post anything on Twitter? Like, I think he openly shares P&L. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, he's connected to Kinfo. Okay. Well then, let me look what he texted over. He's number one right now? Really? Hmm. He's up 64K today. Ah, yeah. Yeah, because Dux makes like 2 million in a day. So there's no way. Yeah. Whatever. P&L is P&L. Everybody loves clicking on it, but who cares? It's just numbers on a screen. I can assure you I have not made 2 million in a day. Back to a couple other names. Multi-day runners, VRAR up from 70 cents to 170. Not the cleanest action. A bit too much consolidation here in the 130s, so it's not super extended. Not as extended as it looks on the daily, so I'd need to see this higher, but I'm just gonna keep it on watch for that. And then SSRM, this is a gold and silver mining name, and daily chart wise, only up from 6 to 8, but this is outlier range from what it typically trades. This is definitely speeding up. This is the same sector that Amy was in when you get this multi-day move and a nice blow off and pullback. So SSRM, I think, could do similar. And look at how well this thing trends. Once it picks its trend off the open, nice steady highs, picks its trend off the open, steady highs, trend off the open, steady highs. So you could get like an $8 consolidation breakdown tomorrow, but what I would prefer is a gap up through prior day's highs. You definitely have the biggest volume profile here in the 810s, but what I'd prefer is like an 850, 880 gap up, and then trade opening range lows as a trigger. But I will keep this one on watch for a possible first red day. For EMA right now is sitting around 730, so there's definitely some meat on the bone here. And it trades fairly thick, so I think, or not thick, but the spread is tight. So only trading 5 million shares a day, not crazy liquidity, but I think it's enough, and I think there could be an opportunity there. So, have you ever spoken to Dux? He's very low key, it seems. I think only Gertani has a close connection with him. No, I've never met Dux, never spoken to him. He seems like he kind of hides in the shadows. He doesn't really like the limelight. That's kind of why he disconnected from Sykes. I had bought one of his DVDs a while back. I didn't really like the way he explains stuff. I feel like he's got a very mathematic mind, which I appreciate. That's kind of how I understand things, but the way in which he explains it wasn't very clear and concise. It seems like he was giving away like a few details, but didn't want to give away his edge. So it was just kind of giving out little pieces, but wasn't giving out the whole thing. So when you're paying, 900 bucks, I think it was, for his DVD, you kind of want a bit of meat and potatoes, not just the Brussels sprouts and gravy. So he was kind of like, here, come over for dinner, but, I'm keeping the turkey for myself. It's kind of how the vibe I got from it. So I didn't really vibe with his style, but he's a monster trader. Monster. Come over for dinner, yeah. You like that analogy. But yeah, so CMRX, possible T plus one would be kind of a back burner watch. Same kind of thing with BBAI. Those long ideas are kind of back burner or B grade setups. But my main watches are probably CDIO and SSRM. CDIO number one, SSRM number two. I'd probably throw Lace as a possible quiet idea, put a trade on in the morning, set a stop, and let it work while I focus on CDIO if it comes into the wheelhouse. And then those couple other long ideas, possible opportunities. How do we get big like Jack? You just keep trading. He's not even that big. Like he's it's a lot of money for like 99% of people, but in the trading sphere, 60K is a lot, but there's guys making 6 figures, 7 figures daily. So how do you get big like Jack? If that's your aspirations, then keep practicing and keep watching chart action. Get in where you fit in and make some goddamn memories. But, yeah. Ducks always spoke about volume relating to max daily range. Knowing the expected volume would give you the max price that day seemed like a great concept, but never really explained it. Jack has great early trading review videos. Yeah, he talks about like the maximum dollar block, which you have to keep like a running spreadsheet basically of what that current environment, the amount of traders that are in it, because there's only so many day traders, right? There's only so many traders that can trade any given stock in any given day. So once that volume is churned, all the traders have already traded the name. There's nobody else left to push the thing higher. So the thesis and the theory behind it makes sense, but keeping that running total in your spreadsheets is a lot of work, which is where Edge kind of stems from, is the work. But it makes sense, but it's just always changing, so it kind of seemed like a bit of a lagging indicator for me. Making all kinds of damn memories, but little money. Like when you get squeezed, man, those are some good memories. When you clench a little bit, and you're like, oh. When traders already trade. When traders already trade, no more to trade. Please forgive Timmy. English is his sixth language. But when the squeeze is squoze. That's right. I tend to feel like there's other indicators that help when you can look for triggers like opening range lows, green to red moves, exhaustive volume on like a 15-minute, stuff like that. Like if tomorrow off the open you get something like this on CDIO, it's fairly good, reliable that it could be the top. If it goes red, holds red, opening range lows, continue to act heavy, all those kinds of things. I don't need a spreadsheet that's tracking volume to tell me that that setup works. So I think it's just, getting in where you fit in, I'm gonna go to bed. Good idea. I'm surprised Lucas and Dux never interacted. They're both in my top traders using data statistics. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna be meeting up with Lucas in a few weeks. I will bring that up. See if he's ever exchanged stuff with Dux. I'm in a boom and bust cycle of making good trades, then not taking my stops and taking large losers. That sounds fairly easy to fix. If you're not taking your stops, then taking large losers, then eventually you just get fed up with taking those large losers. You just have disgust with yourself and you're like, I just need to cut them. And then the cutting becomes no problem. So I'd say keep doing what you're doing and keep taking losses, and eventually the suck is going to suck too much. And you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Alrighty, team. I'm going to hop off, go grab some dinner, and be ready back at the screens tomorrow. Thank you guys for stopping by. Hope that helps. I always have fun doing these. Helps for my prep for the next day. Get in where you fit in, make some memories, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.